Hello and welcome back to the channel. We've got a brand new episode of Star Wars The Acolyte titled Teach/Corrupt. I'm interested to know what we're going to see in this episode, especially given where the last one left off, with May going over to Sol and kind of pretending to be Osha, and Osha being left with the Stranger or Kamir. And especially as last week's was probably the most shocking episode of Star Wars TV I've watched in a while, so I'm interested to know if they're going to top that this episode. Personally, I don't think it's likely. However, I'm still very interested to see where we're going to go from here, especially with the Stranger, as the whole kind of dancing around the concept of being a Sith, the whole all the Knights of Ren theories that have been floating around. If you aren't aware of those, essentially, I think in one of the last shots, you can hear a little bit of Kylo Ren's theme, so a lot of people are theorizing he may be the first Ren or the first Knight of Ren. So it'll be very interesting to see how he pans out as a character. But I think I've waffled for long enough. Let's get into the actual episode. I'm still not quite over Jackie's death, man. It feels way too soon, and I'm not. Yeah.
I want.
Ooh. We're starting with Osha first. I was hoping we would. I'm wondering if this is maybe a Cortosis mine. I think it would probably make sense for it to be one. That's the only kind of guess I can come up with as to where they are. Where the Cortosis mine is, who knows? But I feel like that is potentially what we're seeing here. I mean, there were also theories that this is Ahch-To, but I don't know if that is necessarily the case. It'd be really cool if it was. Unknown planet. My money's honestly on Ahch-To. There are a lot of similarities. If we see a Porg, it'll all but confirm it, but at the same time, there are similarities, but also, like, slight differences, so I could be wrong. But I do hope they will reveal the planet as being Ahch-To, if that is what it is. Naturally, they both have to have small, adorable creatures. That kind of comes hand in hand with it. Ooh. I think we're finally gonna maybe figure out some more on what happened on Brendok. I'm hoping Basil's going to at least try and alert him of the threat here. I think Basil's probably the only one that knows definitively that that's not Osha. I'm liking the robes as well. They're really clean. Is it some form of ritual? I mean, I can't knock it if he's going for a swim. I'd swim there as well, to be honest. So he's going to try and take on Osha. I struggle with how he thinks, considering, like, he cut down so many Jedi, like, in front of her, why she would. But, again, we don't fully understand Kamir yet, so. Is this her doing?
Senator Reagan.
It was a really long time ago.
Really long time. I'm curious as to what that means. He doesn't look that old. I'm interested if it was May that screwed up with the ship then, because it's a little bit suspicious that it just kind of loses power and the ability to communicate. I'm also interested by the ship, because it seems like a design that we've not really seen before. So I'm curious as to that as well. If that will be any kind of clear indication of who the Stranger is. Or, well, I don't want to keep calling him Kamir because he's not Kamir.
Exactly that.
That's the path to the dark side.
Desire isn't ever really included before, so that's an interesting addition. Again, it's strikingly similar to Ahch-To, but I don't know.
Why aren't you a Jedi, Osha?
I mean, it's interesting that we never had it explored. Failed what? Like, this suggests like she messed up on a mission that resulted on innocent casualties. Like, I'm curious as to what she's mentioning, or if just in general, like, could not be anything in particular.
Mog.
I think we might hopefully see that light whip in action. Sol can only be fooled for so long, surely.
I ran a diagnostic. My name is...
He figured it out. Did he switch it off? Surely staying where he was would have been a better move there. Yep, especially given that. They're just trying to write it off as anything but what it is. This is, I think, one of the many reasons why I've struggled against the arguments of, like, how could there be a dark side of, like, this far in the past and the Jedi, like, refusing? Because they're ignorant a lot of the time. Like, case in point. Oh, it was probably just this. We don't need to investigate it any further. Why would we? Oh, wait, because something serious could be going on.
Looks like someone stabbed you in the back.
Someone who threw me away.
Your Jedi Master?
Potential throwaway Sith apprentice, maybe. I think. That would be, in my opinion, that would be a little bit more interesting. The mention of the power of 2 is a callback to episode 3, and potentially a reference to Darth Bane with the rule of 2. But yeah, who knows? I personally wouldn't go a mile of that helmet because, having seen the Mask of Darth moment, I wouldn't trust it. Granted, I don't think it's got that kind of quality to it, but still. Yep. Not done by the local wildlife, I don't think. Genuinely, I don't think any Star Wars show before has had the guts just to kill off several main characters first, with like before the end of the series, or at once for that matter. Like, look, that's what, 6 Jedi already? More? Like, absolute madness. Ooh. Light whip. Some Jedi can just be a little bit clueless, honestly. Oh. I think we're going to see Sol fall a little bit.
Going to talk, so you're going to listen.
Oh. I'm wondering if anything's going to happen when she puts that on. Because, like, some Force artifacts have been known to do that. Oh! That does look like a bit of cortosis ore then, if it's matching the material. So, I may well have been right about it being a cortosis mine. Or at least somewhere where you can mine cortosis. Just look a bit cooler, to be fair. I was kind of expecting something to happen. So, that was episode 5, Teach/Corrupt. I don't want to say I was disappointed, because I don't think that's fair. Especially given how much we got in the last episode. I think maybe I was expecting a little bit more in terms of explanations. Now, I can't quite recall how long the Acolyte was supposed to be. I think, I want to say 8 episodes, and we're on episode 6, so I think we've got a lot to wrap up in 2 episodes. I was kind of hoping they'd utilize part of this to, I don't know, show some flashbacks maybe, kind of elaborate a little bit more on what's going on, but it seems that we didn't get that this episode. However, there are a couple of things that I do want to talk about that I did enjoy. So, we obviously got a little bit more kind of exploration with Kimir. And I think the fact him being a Jedi prior is not necessarily a massive surprise. I'm not sure if I wholly like it. I would have think it would be a little bit more like cooler for him to just not have any connection to anything and then just be this kind of mysteriously powerful figure. I think that would be cooler in my opinion, but I think the idea of him being a Jedi is not exactly unexpected. But the whole thing he said about where'd you get that scar, was it your Jedi Master? And the kind of look he gave was like, no, it was other kind of master, and then I was discarded, I was thrown away. To me at least, that would suggest that he was an acolyte to another Sith, was discarded because he was, I don't want to say no good, but not what they wanted, or he failed in some way. He was thought dead, and then has kind of just been doing his own thing, and now he wants to get his own apprentice and kind of continue that line. I mean, especially the line about the power of 2. Now, that is either a reference to, well, it could be a reference to both. So it's definitely a callback to episode 3, where it says something along the lines of May and Osha being, and talking about their power united. It could just be a callback to that, but I interpreted that as a reference to Darth Bane with the rule of 2, and I think especially given Kimir's supposed potential origin, that would line up a little bit more. So it's interesting that we got that. But I do want to, I hope we get more expounded on with the Kimir and the Stranger, as he's kind of been dubbed. And I'm sure we will. We've got more episodes. But I think I was just expecting a little bit more to kind of get explained this episode. That as well, and the stuff with Sol and May, it was good, but it seemed to just progress very, very slowly. And while ultimately I think the way the episode ended was really good, I feel like they shouldn't have tried to divide this episode into 2 parts like this if they're not going to satisfactorily kind of like explore both narratives, if you get what I mean. Like, I'm not annoyed, and I'm a little bit, if anything, a little bit disappointed, but I feel like in this episode, instead of trying to play both narratives, they should have just played one out in this episode, one out in the next episode, or just expound on one more than the other, or vice versa, because I feel like more could have happened on either side within this episode, but it didn't. We obviously have Vanessa looking into things, which I think is a very good idea, given that the other Jedi were not even going to look in there and just go, well, there was a herd loose, so that's probably what killed them. But no, they went in and actually investigated, which I think, honestly, without Vanessa, they may well not have done. And they found the aftermath of Khmer, so that was quite something. And it's also kind of, it's one thing watching it kind of as it happens when you're engrossed in the action, but looking at it like afterwards, thinking like one lone character did that, kind of mad. Like, and it's really, really kind of impressive, and that's probably what I liked the most about the previous episode, was just the sheer power and strength of this new stranger figure. But yeah, all in all, I'd give this episode like a 6 out of 10. I enjoyed it, sure, but I think there are a lot of notes that I have here on where it could have improved. I think it's just we could have pushed certain narratives further. And I feel like they probably cut down on things. It's just weirdly paced, all in all. The island where Khmer and Osha are, I'm curious on. I think it looks a lot like Ahch-To even, sorry. And given that it's undisclosed, the planet location, I feel like that very well could be the case, as I can't really think of any other reason why they'd undisclose a planet if they're not going to reveal it later and have it be like, oh, this is cool, this is a cool connection, kind of thing. But the only thing that's clear to me is that it looks very similar, and also seems to have a kind of vein of cortosis, or at least I think that's what that was in that shot. You kind of look at the helmet and it pans up to what looks like a strip of it in the kind of cave wall, so I'm assuming that is a vein of cortosis. Obviously I may well be wrong on that. But yeah, I'm very interested to see where Osha's going to go. I think she may well head down to a path of darkness with Khmer, and we may see her go down that way. But I'm interested to know how the actual Sith are involved, because in my opinion, this episode is definitive that Khmer, or the Stranger, is not currently a member of the Sith. I think he was formerly a Sith apprentice. I don't think he is anymore. So I think, well, I really hope this show will actually answer what the Sith are doing in this time, rather than, I understand it's called the Acolyte and it is focusing over an Acolyte, but it would be cool to at least touch base or understand, or maybe have like the ending of the season being the real Sith taking them out, because they're you know pretenders and drawing too much attention to them, and I think that would be a good way to kind of bridge the gap there. But I am slightly kind of like, we're running out of time. We've got a lot of things to work through. I mean, we still haven't seen that full kind of breakdown of what happened on Brendok. But I think Sol is a lot more involved than it's been led to believe, especially given that last interaction he had with May this episode of the, I've had 16 years to think of what I'm going to say to you, and I'm going to say it. And it wasn't like a kind of like remorse of like, I don't know how I could have saved you. It was more like a, you did me over. So you screwed me over. Like, and I'm interested to know how a child is responsible for that, given that, well, they're a child. So I'm kind of semi-curious as to know what's going on in that regard. And we still don't know what happened to this kind of witch coven. And I really think that needs to explain soon. And we don't have a great deal of time left. Actually, I will quickly check how many episodes we have left of the Acolyte, because we have like 12. I'm waffling for nothing. Okay, so it will have 8 episodes, so I'm not waffling. We've got 2 episodes left. Yeah, I just think things need to kind of get moving a little bit quicker. I think the pacing could have afforded to be slow in like episode 4, where admittedly it was quite slow, but I personally didn't mind it given the kind of conclusion of that episode. But I think now we're kind of getting to the later half of the season. Slowing down is not really something they can afford to do. Or at least that's just how I viewed it. But ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, that will be all for today's video. Thank you all very, very much for watching. Please let me know what you thought of this episode of The Acolyte. I want to know if I'm alone in my critiques, if I'm not alone, what everyone thought of this episode, about the kind of reveals with Camille and everything that's going on there, and where you think the show's going to go. Because honestly, I've been really, really enjoying it. I think this episode, I wouldn't say it's the weakest, but it's probably the one I have the most issue with so far, which I think is really saying something, because the issues I have with it aren't like major, but there you have it. But yeah, no, that will be all for today's Acolyte video. Thank you all very, very much for watching. Please be sure to subscribe, like this video if you want to keep seeing my Acolyte reactions. I post them every week. But yeah, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.